Okay, so today we're doing that quiz on chapters, the last part of chapter 1 and then the first part of chapter 2. Today we're going to finish up 2.1 and do 2.2. We probably won't get to 2.3. And then today you have your first Connect Math due on chapter 1. Tomorrow you have that Tech Lab due, which is Tech Lab is getting that survey done and sent to me. And then Thursday you have your Connect Math 2.1/2.2 due, and then next Tuesday you have your next Connect Math 2.2/2.3 due. And also Tech Lab 1B, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Next Thursday you have your Connect Math chapter 4, first chapter 4 one due. So every day we'll start off, I'll have the agenda up here. You have your quiz and what we're doing that day, and then down below it's due. So that will always be here if you ever kind of want to know what to figure out or where to go with things. If you've taken Math 40 before, and you've used Connect, and you've purchased Math Connect Math, you do not have to purchase it again. So if for some reason when you log in, they should just let you straight in and not prompt you for a code. If they do prompt you for a code, put in the free 2-week code for now and then email me. I need your name, your username, and the email you use for Connect Math, and I can figure out what's going on with that and get them to extend you for that, because our agreement with the publisher was that they would extend that and not have it just limited to over here. So if you've taken Math 40 before and have purchased Connect Math, you should not have to purchase it again. Right, so let's take a look at Project Part 1A and 1B. Where's that? Okay. So here is 1A. Just as a quick reminder, this is our first Tech Lab. It's creating a survey. So again, if you go to Canvas, here's our Canvas site here. If you go to Canvas and you go down to Project Math 40, Part 1, this file I'm going through right now is this first file. Just download it, and you'll get this right here, all the directions. And then there's the Word files, the survey questions in the Word file, or if you don't have Word, you can open up the text file there when the questions are in there. Also, if you want more information on creating a Google survey, there's a link to it there. So here's the deal. Go to Chrome, because it plays better with Chrome. Google Forms does. Go to Google Forms, send your Google account, hit that, create a new form. We talked about this last class. Right, and then you're going to follow these directions, go to the untitled questions, start cutting and pasting these questions from this survey questions document into there, one at a time. You need to do all 30 questions, because you're creating a survey with all 30 questions. Each of you, instead of going out there and getting 100 each, you're just going to get 4 each for all 30 questions, and then we're going to combine them so we have a nice good sample of 160 people with all 30 questions in them. All right, so you guys are each responsible for getting 4 of those. All right, so make sure that you include, when you cut and paste those questions, and you include the number in front. I'll show you an example of what I'm talking about. And then you need to click on that multiple choice and change it to being short answer. All right, we went through this last class. I'm just going to kind of go through it quickly. And then for the first 15, that's all you need to do. Just change it to short answer. The last 15, 16 through 30, are numerical. So those ones you need to add an extra step of making them, clicking on here and forcing them to be a number. Don't do that for all of them, just the last 15. So there's directions here about how to do that, giving the response validation, changing the greater than to greater than or equal to. All the directions are in here. This alternatively, you probably won't have to deal with. And then when you're done, creating all 30 questions, double check to make sure you have them all. And then and make sure they all say short answer. There aren't these little multiple choice boxes that say option 1 on them. Question?
So when I did the number greater than or the number greater than or equal to, and then there's a number box on the side.
Leave it alone. You can just leave it blank. It'll automatically assume it's 0, so it's all good.
Okay.
Yeah. Good deal. Now here's the thing. Next, you need to send it to me. Everybody hear that? Send it to me before you send it to anybody else. Because if you send it out and it's wrong, then you have to go back and start from scratch and redo it all. Right? Or do something else and delete some things and do some other stuff. So send to me first, just to make things easy. Hit this in the upper part, there's this little send button there. And when you hit, and then you'll hit email, which is the little, it should default to that automatically. But the email, put my address, email address there, and then make sure you click on include form and email. If you don't do that, it's just really hard for me to read them all. Whereas otherwise, it takes me like 15 seconds. I can just do it, like if I'm having dinner with my friends, I can just pull it up, flip through it, look at it, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, send it back to you, and you're all good. Right? So just, you'll get your answers quickly and right away, otherwise I'll bounce it back to you. All right, so once I tell you, looks good, then you can send it out to your friends. You need 4 responses, you can be one of them. Ideally students. That's kind of what we're hoping for. Don't send it again until I say it looks good. I might also, so this is what one would look like. Let's see. Sent. So here's one that looks good. Right? So you see how I can kind of see right away if it's a letter or if it's a number. Down here are the numbers. It's really easy. I can tell if you're missing any because they're all numbered according to the thing. So you're not making up the questions. Questions are already there for you. Everybody clear on that part? Don't go making your own up. They're already in that file. What file? This file right here. Survey questions. And then when it's good, I'll look back and say it looks good. So when you send it, whatever email is connected with your Google account, you need to check that email because I'm either going to say it looks good or you need to fix this, that, or the other and resend. So be aware to look for those. You got to look for that, check that email, whatever it is, to get that response. Once you get the looks good, send it out to your friends, and then that's going to be the second part is once you get those back. So again, here's directions for sending out to your friends if you need to do that. Okay, so part 2, which is you can download these directions right here, is right in here. So this is after you get the responses back from your friends. And if you give it to them in paper, that's fine. Then you have to input them yourself into this form. They just need to be input into the form. Once you have them all, see where it says responses for? You know you have them. Click on that, and it'll show you the responses you've gotten. Right, so stuff like that. Click on where it says this little green button. If you hover over it, it'll say View Responses in Sheets. Click on that, and it'll create a spreadsheet for you with all the data in it. So then it'll look something like this. Here's the deal. You're each responsible for cleaning up your 4 people's data. That way, when you merge it, everything's all good. If you don't clean it up, then everybody who uses that, all 20 people who use that are going to clean up that one thing over and over and over again, right? Each one's going to have to clean it up. If you do it once, then it's done. You guys see what I'm saying? So you're responsible for cleaning up your 4. What do I mean by cleaning it up? For example, height. We asked for them to give their height in inches. If people don't know what to do because they can't put in 5'2" and they just put 5.2 like this person did, that really means they are not 5.2 inches tall. Right? There's no way any of your friends are 5.2 inches tall. There's no real shrinking machine that doesn't work. Ant-Man doesn't actually exist. So 5.2 inches tall, not going to happen. What they really mean is 5'2" inches most likely. 5 foot 2 inches, yeah. So you need to convert that to actual inches. 5'2" inches, and I give you a little hint. There are 60 inches in 5 feet. So 5'2" inches would be 60 plus 2, 62 inches. So you just fix theirs on the spreadsheet. You can just go right in and just type over it. Click on it, type in 62 instead. Right, so fix any of those ones that are strange like that. They give a range like 75 to 80. What's the number that best represents 75 to 80 miles an hour? Give me some possibilities. 77 and a half. You can average them. Or you can pick 75, or you can pick 80. I don't care. But something reasonable. Don't go picking 12 or something, strange. Okay. Delete answers that make no sense. If they say they drive at a speed of 0 on the highway, we get that a lot. Can you really drive 0 on the highway? You can't even get on the highway if you drive 0 on the highway. Right? Did some crane, plane just drop you, helicopter drop you on the highway, and you're driving 0, you're just going to sit there. You're going to get run over. You're going to die, right? There's no way you drive 0 on the highway. What they really mean is, I don't drive. That should be deleted, blank, or NA. You can delete it and just leave it blank, or put NA. That's fine. Either one's fine. If they are, if they're taking 0 classes, it means they're not a student. Just delete that also, or NA. However, 0 pets, that's totally reasonable to have. You can have 0 pets, and it really means, not that, you see what I'm saying? That's kind of a more reasonable number to have in terms of what we're talking about. If for some reason maybe they're normally a student that are taking a semester off, then maybe 0 classes might make sense there also. If they just write something weird, like they say they have a height of 27 inches or 165 inches. 27 inches, they are not, if you're 2 years old, you might be 27 inches. None of your friends should be 2 years old. All right, so their height should be higher than that. 165 inches, that's like 14 feet or 13, that's something really large, right? Yeah, no one is 12 and a half feet tall. So that's, either fix it because you know your friend and you just guess at their height, or just leave it blank. Blank is better than a totally crazy, insane, wrong answer. Also, they'll do weird stuff, which I'll talk about. Like, they might say things like, what month were you born in? And I'll say, when the dog howled at the moon, right? Just delete that. If they're being wise jokers, just take those ones out, because it's going to screw up our data. Everybody with me on this? Understand what I'm saying? Okay. Shoe size at 2? No. They're saying they're taking 11 classes. No one's taking 11 classes here. Not in this semester. Maybe they mean 11 units. You should fix that. But no one's taking 11 classes. That's not. The other thing, too, is there's a part about income. And it says to the nearest, put your income in thousands. So if they're making $24,000, they should put 24 in there. If they put in 24,000, that means they're making 24,000 thousands, which is $24 million. None of our friends are making $24 million a year. If they were, then they should be taking care of you. I mean, so yeah. Okay. Once you clean it up, so clean up all the questions for all 4 of your people. Just double check to make sure they all make sense. Then you can need to add your initials in. It's pretty straightforward. Just go in there and if you click on one of them, if you kind of click around a little bit, you can eventually get it to a spot where, well, this is being difficult. You see how it showed up here as well? So look at this spot right up here. As I click different spots, that changes to whatever I'm on. So just change it. You can just click on that and you change it there, and just add in your initials, right? And then once you do that, I'll show you something cool. Also, once you do that, if you kind of go here, see where I have the little hand, and if I go down a little bit, I get that little black X going straight up and down. Do you guys see the cross? Mm-hmm. That means I can left click and drag down, and it'll overwrite the rest of those. Which is kind of nifty. I'm going to undo that. Oh, I can't undo that. No! I just screwed up some data. No worries. It's all right. This is a copy. So that's kind of the problem, is that if you screw something up, be very careful doing stuff in the master file. Your own file, mess it up, that's fine. In the master file, don't go changing stuff. Unless we talked about it. Because that's... if you change it and delete somebody else's stuff, it's just gone. You can't undo it. That's the only problem with Google Sheets. Is that Excel, you get the undo button and it'll save your butt if you screw something up. Google Sheets, it's online and multiple people can access it. So oh wait, I might be able to do it there. Let's see if I can do it there. It's giving me something. Let's see if I can undo it. No. Totally not undoing any of this. Okay, no worries. So, I would say if you're going to do deleting things, maybe email me and let me delete it. That'd be better. So that you don't overwrite or accidentally lose somebody else's stuff. Okay, so put in your initials. And then you want to highlight, see how the whole stuff here is highlighted, the entire row? You need to be on the number 4, 5, 6, 7. You need to highlight those. So be on number 4, 6. I'm going to left click. Oh, I can't do it. If I do that, it's going to try to move it.
Try Control Z to undo.
Oh, I'll try that. Control Z.
No.
Yeah, the problem is it's the worksheet. The worksheets, it doesn't, the online stuff. So that works at home. Like when you accidentally move a file and you have no idea where you moved it to, you hit Control Z, you'll undo that. Yeah. So you have to be off of it, and then hover onto 6. Left click, drag down. Do you see what I did? Okay, so don't be on 6. If you're on 6, I won't let you left click, drag. I'll try to move it. So be off of 6 and then hover on 6. Left click and drag at once. Now I've highlighted those. You want to copy them from yours to the classes. So Control C, and then go to our classes, and you can just highlight just the first spot where it goes. Don't go here, because then it won't line up. Go right there, the first under A, column A, Control V, and it'll paste them right in. Everybody all on board with that part? This is not your class. Let me go to your class. I will go ahead and unlock that now that I've shown you what I need you to do first before you start cutting and pasting into there. So, this is yours. No one can write to it yet because I've write protected it. I will unwrite protect it in a few moments. I just don't want people, I want to talk to you guys, make sure you cleaned it up first before you started cutting and pasting into it. Okay. All right. Questions? I think that's all the directions are in here. All right, so due dates. The survey you need to send to me, that's due by tomorrow night at midnight. Wait until I say, looks good, back to you, before you send it out to other people. Once you get their responses, and you need to do that, you need to get it cleaned up and sent out to people by this weekend. So make sure that you get it to me Wednesday, but pay attention because you need to get it fixed and in good shape to send out before the weekend, because on the weekend you need to send it out, get responses. By next Tuesday, you need to have your data back from them, cleaned up, and copied into our master file. That's project part 1B, cleaning it up and merging it in with the rest of the classes. And once it happens, once you guys are done with that, I'm going to lock it so that people can't edit it and overwrite things and totally destroy our master file. So those are the deadlines we're working with. So let's take a look at our quiz. So last class's quiz. What's the independent variable? Let's get Philip F. to read.
Subjects were divided into 2 groups. You have to think of creative use of bricks. One group, each subject was placed in a red room, and the other group placed in a blue room. The blind panel scored responses, assigning each a creativity score.
Good. So there are 2 things I know about each of these people. What 2 things do I know? So here's a person who was in the survey. What 2 things do I know about her at the end? What 2 things, piece of information do I find out about her? I'm sorry, what was it? What color room she was in? Somebody over here for the other thing. What else do I know about her? Yeah, her creativity score. Perfect. So what color room she was in, and her creativity score. Which one of those 2 things do I control? What color room? I put her in one room or the other. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's my independent variable, one I can mess with. So the color of the room, that is my independent variable. The other thing, her creativity score, That is what is affected, I'm saying, by what room color I put her in. So I saw this online. What's an independent variable and dependent variable? I had an issue with this problem. Let's get someone to read this one. Megan G. Oh wait, she came earlier. Michael H. Michael? Yes.
Start from the very top.
No, just our people.
Are people who have a college degree more respectful of the law than people who do not have a college degree? Identify variables, independent, dependent.
Good. So, first of all, what do they intend to be the independent variable here?
College degree.
Yeah, college degree. They're saying having a college degree affects whether or not you're respectful of law. Why do I have a problem with this?
You don't control it.
Yeah, I didn't control it. I did not say, you guys must have a college degree. You guys cannot have a college degree. You're not allowed to have a college degree, and you are forced to get one, whether you want one or not. And then see whether or not you guys are respectful of the law later on. An experiment was not done. Do you see what I'm saying? You weren't arbitrarily put into one group or the other, and then seeing how that affects whether you're respectful of the law. So I can't say that one thing causes the other one. Everybody see what I'm saying? That'd be the only way I can do that. It could be, they're certainly related. They're saying that having a college degree, people who have college degrees are generally more respectful of the law. They're connected, they're correlated, they're related. You can't say which one causes which. It could be that people who respect the law are more likely to get a college degree. Right? They're not in jail as often. It's hard to get. I had a student who missed class once because he was in jail. It can happen, right? So if you're more respectful of the law, you're just more likely to get a college degree. It could be that. You don't know which one causes which. So that's, unless you do an experiment and you arbitrarily put people into one group or the other, you can't say that. Those are the advantages of experimental studies. So experimental, one is you can control the independent variable, and because of that, you can determine if one variable causes outcomes in the other variable. That's the power of an experiment. You control the first variable, the independent one, put people into different groups, or give them different amounts of drug, and then you can see if that changes the outcomes for some other variable. Here's a quiz from last class. What is wrong with their conclusion? You guys need 15 seconds to talk to your neighbors? Talk to your neighbors for 15 seconds. Make sure you guys are on board.
Basically because they just kind of made a conclusion just because of one thing that happened, but that doesn't have to be.
Okay, yeah, I didn't necessarily Okay, what you guys come up with? What do you think? What do you think? Yes?
It doesn't determine the cause and the effect.
Right, you can't say that one is the cause and one's the effect. Because it wasn't an experiment, this was an observation. They're just observing something. Observing, you're hands off, you're just observing something that's going on. You're not putting people, actively getting involved and putting people in one group or the other group. Everybody gonna follow? So you can't say that, you can say they're related, you can't say that one causes the other one. So this is that important thing. So you might get a question similar to that or even more confusing than that. You probably have more stuff in there. on the midterm. And one of the things that will probably be wrong with it is that correlation does not imply causality. In other words, just because you can say two things are related, but you can't say that one causes the other one from an observation, unless you get into it to experiment and you randomly assign people into groups. Okay.
Question.
Yes.
So if you say that they were wrong by only observing one variable, would you be correct, or do you?
No. They're observing.
Right.
They're not actively assigning people into groups.
Right.
It's not an experiment.
But you were saying, I think last week we talked about observational surveys. You need at least two variables. So would you be correct to say that they're wrong for only observing one variable?
No, I mean, you could observe just one variable. I could do a survey and just say, do you support Trump or not? And that would just be a one variable survey, observation.
Okay.
So you can do that. You can do one variable, or experiments you have to have two variables. But an observation you could have one or two or three variables if you wanted to. Yeah, good question. Thank you for clarifying that. Thanks. But yeah, I guess you could say, yeah, if there's only one variable, then for sure it can't be causing something else. But very often they'll have two variables and they'll say that are related, and they'll say that one causes the other one. So this is what was really going on. They actually did a trial. They did an experiment, like they should, put people into one group or the other one, randomized trial, right? So randomized controlled trials, so they randomly assigned women who could use hormone replacement therapy, so and assigned them to one of two groups, and then we observed whether or not they had a higher or lower instance of heart disease. And what they actually found was that if they're in the group that was getting the hormone therapy, they tended to have a higher instance of heart disease, slightly. So what was going on, in fact, was hormone replacement therapy it's optional. It's usually given to either people who have had a sex change, or women who are going through time of life change, right? And did you ever see Fried Green Tomatoes, where like she crashes into the girl's car 4 times, right? And she's like, you need some hormones. So it's usually and that's hormone replacement therapy. So typically sometimes it's optional. Your insurance doesn't always cover it. So typically it's more affluent people who typically get this therapy. And affluent people tend to have better eating habits and a better health regimen than other folk, than the average person. So that's why they had a lower instance of heart disease. It was a third thing, their socioeconomic group that was causing both those two things to happen. All right. And again, you can't say one thing causes the other one unless you do an experiment. Okay, so organizing data. That's the other thing we went through. Frequency distribution, we talked about those. Remember where we have, we take our raw data and put it into a form that people can understand by having classes and frequencies. So this is the result of 4. How often did 4 occur? Frequency of 1 happened once. We had one person who had 4 siblings in that case. Not you guys, but another class. We also talked about relative frequency distribution. So it's where you take your class frequency and you divide by the total frequency. In other words, you find the percentage of the whole that is in that class, the proportion that's in that class. I usually like it as a decimal or a percent just because it's easier when you graph it, but not technically wrong. So this would be your problem number 1 of the quiz. This is your results, right? Number of cars in household, and 2 people had 3 cars. So what percent of people had 3 cars in the survey? 10% of people in the survey had 3 cars. Right, because it was 2 out of 20, 10%. So everybody check your answers already? cumulative frequency, we talked about that last class as well, right? You guys have seen that in cumulative GPA or cumulative final. It's everything from the beginning up to that point. So cumulative frequency is how much data is in that class or a previous class up to then. So we kind of look backwards at this one. I'm just going to make a cumulative frequency. How many people had 0 or fewer cars? You can't have fewer than 0 cars. So just one person. How many people had 1 or less cars? 1 or less. 9 had 1. 0 had less. 1 had less. So 9 plus 1, 10. How many people had 2 or less cars? So these are the 2 or less cars. So you add all those up, you get 16. Or you take the shortcut and just say, oh, 6 here plus 10 before, 16. Add them up. Next one, 3 or less. So that is all of these guys here. And again, the easiest thing is just take this 2 and add it to the 16 you had before, 18. And then here, 4 or less cars, all 20 of them had 4 or less. Everybody on board with that? Cumulative frequency. So that's cumulative. What are you you're accumulating? You're accumulating what? Their frequencies. Right? So you're kind of finding how many are in this group or more in terms of the frequencies. We also talked last class about cumulative relative frequency. Slightly different. Cumulative relative frequency. And that's the same thing, only not on the frequencies, but on the relative frequencies. So that's looking at these guys here. So this would be 5%. This would be 5% plus 45%, so 50%. 50%, 50 cents. This one would be 30 plus 50, so that would be 80%. And remember, 80%, right, that is 80 cents. You guys are all familiar with money, right? You know 80 cents. You know how to write 80 cents. You know how to write 8 cents, which is not the same. Percents, you have maybe a little less experience with. Just write the percent. When you change it to a decimal, write it as if it were cents. 80%, 80 cents. How do you write 80 cents? 0.80. All good. What percent of people had 3 or less cars? Well, 10% had 3 cars, 80% had less than that, so 90% had 3 or less, and 100% had 4 or less cars. Okay? Questions? You guys want to check in with your neighbors on these? At this point, you should all be able to fill in all of your Chapter 2 the front page of Chapter 2. Right, so there's this word bank here. The last thing we did last class was have you guys fill in these sheets using the word bank there. If you didn't do that before, take 30 seconds, take a minute with your neighbors and try to fill those in now.